Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's kick off today's story with a case of policies gone wrong, a hefty shipping bill, and a surprising career twist. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Following orders lands me extra PTO and an IT manager in hot water. Previous job worked in a company that was regulated by multiple powerful government agencies. When they asked for something, they want it pronto. And if the delay was too long, they'd rather have us shut down business rather than wait for data, information, or prototypes. I was given a company phone that I had to take everywhere with me, rotating on call periods, but I'm expected to be available if crap hits the fan. The phone was a special kind of phone from a fruit company based in California. It wasn't a US-based model. It had 2 different networks, and with some extra tech in it, could jump on whichever was stronger, and maybe even use both at the same time. I'm not sure, but it was good. Needless to say, it should have been pretty expensive. Now, I love nature. I can and have gone camping, oftentimes in remote places, and gone a few days without seeing another human. 18 months into the job, there was a new schedule where I got 3 days of being on call and expected to work a regular 8-hour day, having to live within 20 minutes of work, and then 4 days of being off. This worked pretty amazing for me. As soon as the next on-call team doing and maintaining the same work from our department got on, I'd be off on a plane to get another national park under my belt or some remote state parks or whatever I had my sight on. I thought it'd be helpful to carry the company phone I was given along with me in case I was needed. In the year and a half, I was never contacted when not being on call, as we had a strong culture of communications and the teams knew what they had to know in order to troubleshoot, but nevertheless, I took the company phone along with me. During the trip, the screen got damaged, not so much that the phone was inoperable, but definitely difficult to use. Got back, went through the forms, and got IT to repair or give me another one. Some manager high up in IT went off and was going on and on about how expensive those devices were, how difficult it was to configure them, and how much harder it was to get them in US and all the other BS. Then she told me I'm not to take the company phone and hardware along with me wherever I go. It's supposed to go between my residence and the office and nowhere else. And she was pretty derogatory about it, even throwing a few large chunks of racism in between. I shot off an email later, keeping my manager in the loop and the department head about confirming what she said. A few weeks later, I took my PTO. PTO policy was pretty good, and thus I took off for 3 weeks and still had over 3 weeks remaining. I did not take any of the company hardware along with me, as per what was stated by some manager who was somewhere in the organizational chart in IT and decently high up. All hands on deck situation arose. My manager was pissed at me not being able to answer the company phone. Wasn't like I was in the woods at my very dear cousin who just had twins and a very difficult delivery. I took care of my cousin while her husband looked after the kids. Manager had to get me on my own phone, and she had to go through some of my work friends for my personal phone, since I was pretty good at not giving out my personal contact info to people at work. Manager: why aren't you answering the company phone? Me: I'm not at home. Don't have my company phone with me. Manager: never mind. Get back online immediately. We have an all-hands-on-deck situation. Me: sorry, I do not have any of the company hardware with me. Manager, being mouthy: why? A bunch of expletives. Me: this manager in IT said I wasn't to take company hardware along with me wherever I go. Manager: what? When did that happen? Me: I sent an email stating what she said and kept UNX, our department head, in CC. Manager goes through her email, finds it, and a bunch of more expletives. You need to come back immediately. Me: sorry, no can do. My cousin's still pretty much half dead with a very difficult twin pregnancy. I'm taking care of her, and I was pretty clear about it before going on PTO. I wouldn't be able to come back. Manager cuts off call, calls me back in 30. Manager: do you have anyone who has keys to your apartment? Me: yes. Manager: give me their contact. I'm going to get the computer and screen and UVW, other hardware, shipped to you before night, and you can get back. We have a serious situation. Me: can I get more PTO then to compensate for this intrusion? Me, knowing I have the slightly upper hand and striking when the metal's hot: Manager, sure, I'll send an email approving this. By 8 p.m., I get my company phone, computer, and other hardware shipped to me. I also get 2 emails. One email approving the extended PTO for this intrusion. Second email from my department head, X, stating that the original company policy is still in effect. In fact, a new policy has been put in place for some employees to have their company hardware with them, even on PTO. Anything else said by anyone else was to be disregarded, and cherry on top, that IT manager was in CC. When I returned from my PTO, that IT manager was nowhere to be seen. Turns out she'd been demoted, she couldn't digest that, and quit. The company had to spend over $6,000 to ship it on the same day and get the hardware to me. Edit. As so many people have been pointing out, it wasn't a win for me. Don't be contacted during time off. Now you got to carry phone and laptop, risk management of the company, and so on. First, I probably wasn't needed. As I said, we had a good communications culture, so alternate teams were aware, and it wasn't like I was the only one who'd be able to do it. But in case regulators asked for a third thing while people were already working on things 1 and 2, it'd be nice to have more people around who would be taking over. If the regulator was pissed off enough come the deadline, they would literally stop the business, and they could. Second, the employer was pretty good about not contacting people being off or on PTO, and if someone was contacted, they were given more time off, more days for PTO. People were happy, a few were grumpy maybe, but it was reasonable. Third, yes, some people may or may not see this as a win, and I get your point. Then again, this is not Europe. The downside, this industry is literally 5x in US versus in Europe. Fourth, people in management were understanding. Since I was available but away, I would be utilized only if the ones already working were overloaded, but they wanted me available. Thankfully, I really wasn't utilized. Fifth, destroying someone's career? I didn't do that. They did it to themselves. She was pretty high up in IT chain, and I agreed to follow what she said. Consequences. IT doesn't have a business overview, but a small horse-like view of business through the lens of IT. She should probably have consulted a few more folks instead of being in a rage fit and throwing a tantrum. Classic case of penny wise, pound foolish. Someone who just wanted to brandish control over actually trying to make things work. The trash took themselves out this time. But unfortunately, so many other trash like that IT manager exit in mid-upper management. And our next story. Entitled neighbor thinks my charger is public property, finds out it isn't. A while back, I came into some extra money and decided to treat myself after responsibly setting aside a college fund for my kids. I'm divorced with 2. I splurged on something I'd been eyeing for a while, a brand new Tesla SUV. It felt great to drive something so sleek and modern. To make things even more convenient, I spent a few grand to install a charging station in my garage so I wouldn't have to rely on public chargers. Life was good. Or so I thought. That's when Karen, my neighbor, decided to inject herself into my life. Karen, who lives a few houses down, also owns a Tesla. Hers is an older model, and like most people in the area, she uses public chargers. I never thought much of her until one day I came home to find her at my garage, aggressively yanking at the door handle. It took me a second to process what was happening. "What the hell are you doing?" I asked, walking up to her, trying to stay calm. She didn't even look embarrassed. "I need to use the public charging station for my car," she snapped, "and you're illegally blocking access by keeping your garage door locked." I stared at her in disbelief. "Karen, this isn't a public charging station. It's mine. I paid for it, and it's on my property." Her face twisted into an entitled sneer. "All Tesla chargers are public property. You can't just lock yours away. That's illegal." I took a deep breath, realizing I was dealing with a lunatic. "Karen, this is private property. My property. You need to leave. Now." She wasn't having it. She started yelling about how I was breaking the law and how she'd make sure I regret this. I ignored her, parked my car in the garage, locked the door, and went inside. About an hour later, there was a knock at my door. When I opened it, there was a police officer standing there with Karen behind him, grinning like she just won the lottery. The officer seemed a bit uncomfortable. "Sir, I'm here because of a complaint that you're blocking access to public property," he said. It took me a moment to register what he was talking about, but then I led the officer to the garage. "Let me show you something," I said. Inside, I pointed to my car parked neatly inside and the charging station mounted on the wall. "This is my Tesla," I explained, "and this is the charging station I had installed. Here's the invoice showing I paid for it." The officer nodded, clearly understanding how ridiculous this all was. He walked back out to talk to Karen, who immediately launched into his screeching tirade. "He's lying! That's public property! He has no right to lock it up!" The officer calmly explained to her that I was well within my rights and told her to leave. Karen stormed off, muttering something about getting a lawyer and taking this all the way to court. I thought that was the end of it. I was wrong. A week later, I came home to find my garage door smashed in. It was so badly damaged that I couldn't even open it. Furious, I immediately checked the footage from the security cameras I had installed around my house, and there she was, Karen, in full HD, wielding a small sledgehammer and going to town on my garage door like a crazed vigilante. I didn't waste any time. I called the police and showed them the footage. They showed up at Karen's house shortly after, and I watched from my window as she was hauled out in handcuffs. She was charged with attempted break-and-enter as well as damaging private property. But I wasn't done. I filed a civil suit against her for the cost of the repairs. Between replacing the garage door, repainting, and reinforcing the area, the damages totaled several $1,000s. I made sure she paid every penny. Karen tried to play the victim, of course. She claimed she was just trying to access what's rightfully hers and accused me of hoarding resources. But the court didn't buy it. She was found guilty, ordered to pay restitution, and slapped with a restraining order preventing her from coming anywhere near my property. Now my garage is fixed, and I've installed even more cameras around my house. Karen wanted to charge her car so badly, and now she's facing legal and financial ruin, all because she couldn't take no for an answer. Some people just don't know when to quit. Something tells me Karen thought buying a Tesla would boost her status, but she forgot it doesn't run on her hot air. The sheer entitlement to claim your private charger as public property is laughable. But calling the cops to back her delusion? That's a new level of Karen logic. And the sledgehammer move? Unhinged. Imagine thinking, this'll show him, while smashing in someone's garage like a vigilante for imaginary public resources. She didn't just cross the line, she sprinted past it, waving a flag of self-righteousness. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.